Hey guys, my name's Vando, this is Brexit Vando. I apologise if I sound a little croaky, I've got a bit of a sore throat. And I'm a couple of days late to this, but I thought I'd cover it anyway. The Old World Almanac, the Merwyrm returns from the depths. So the High Elves are next on the list for Warhammer, the Old World. Now the High Elves, as you may have seen in a previous video where I got rather gushy, are one of my favourite armies. I fell in love as a kid with the aesthetic of the High Elves. That love was cemented in place by Karl Kopinski's phenomenal artwork in the army book. I had a full lead army back in sort of, what was it, 3rd or 4th edition fantasy. It was the one that came with High Elves and Orcs and Goblins with you had cardboard special units. You had a cardboard Lord on Griffin and a cardboard Goblin Chariot or something, token. And I've always loved them. And now, unfortunately, I never was any good at painting them. I didn't have the money to actually really do a big army of them. And I didn't really ever get into fantasy. But now, as someone who enjoys painting, and I have the time, I have the ability, I don't particularly have the money, but I'm certainly in a better position to collect them. I am very much looking forward to them. So here is an article about the Merwyrm. The Merwyrm is an underwater dragon, or it is akin to a dragon, and High Elf Sea Lords have the ability to bend them to their will and basically enslave them as creatures to use on the battlefield. And okay, that's cool. I don't actually really want to talk about the model. I'm not a big fan of the model. I think it's got a bit too much going on. I don't think the pose is particularly great. What I really want to talk about here is the return of a lot of Warhammer Forge models. Not Forge World. Warhammer Forge was the fantasy side of that business, and it is where a lot of the bigger Resin dragons and fantasy style models came from. They didn't do very well at all. Warhammer Forge was undersold dramatically. This is because fantasy had a smaller kind of fan base than 40k, or more accurately, its fan base wasn't as big as 40k's. And a lot of these models, they didn't last long. They'd appear, they'd stick around for a year, a couple of months, and then they'd disappear, and that was it. Which is why so many people keep seeing them and being like, I've never seen this model before, when did this come out? And being really quite shocked by it. And it even happens to myself. I still find model kits that I had no idea GW produced, which is quite wild. So, what I'm trying to get to here is there are a lot of big models, and I hope we get to see a return of all of them. And I've got a selection I found here on Google, so all the images belong to whoever they belong to. I'm not claiming ownership of any of them. And I'm hoping that their inclusion in the Old World and their now visibility on the main Games Workshop website may lean to many of these models being a bit more popular if they do come back. So here's one. This is the Marienburg land ship. It's kind of a weird amalgamation of a steam tank and a war wagon. And it's basically a giant war wagon, which is a little castle, pulled along by horses. Unique to Marienburg. And it is a steam tank engine that pushes a small boat. And it's filled full of guys who are armed with, Hochland long rifles and spears and halberds and stuff. And it rides along the battlefield just being a menace. We have the Magma Dragon. Now, I love dragons. Dragons are cool. And I never think GW has done a particularly great dragon. Forge World has done some real great dragons. So the Magma Dragon here is one of those ones that I've always wanted to do. It's a big, chunky, thick squat dragon. It's not long, it's not elegant. This isn't something the high elves would be, you know, whistling along in the airy peaks of when. No, this is something you would find deep, dark underground in a hot, you know, dark cave where suddenly there's a bright burst of light as this thing just erupts from the ground. And I mean, the level of detail here is fantastic. I think this is the Carmine. No, it's the Warp. That's the Carmine dragon. It's like the Warp Fire Dragon, or yeah, Warp Fire Dragon. So this is there's a couple of these where they were like amalgamation kits with the plastic regular black dragon kit, and this is a dragon that's basically been corrupted by warpstone. And it's lovely, you know. You've got some really cool posing to it. It's interesting that it's wrapped around this cool pillar. Its face is all horrible and mutilated. I don't know the names of all of these. This was a Chaos Dragon. I think there was a guy riding it in the end, and it's massive. I mean, you can see it surrounded by clan rats. That is a stonking piece of resin. This is the kind of Titan equivalent for fantasy. And while I don't think we'll see these return soon, I hope with the popularity of the old world, because it does seem to be picking up popularity with people, I'm hoping we start to see a return of kits like these, and I'm hoping that a lot more people pick them up. A lot more people really get to enjoy them. Because, you know, for example here, this is actually the Forge World version of begins with a G, I can't remember what it is. Galrouch, there you go. And Galrouch is that red and blue dragon that the Chaos guys get that has just been re-released on Made to Order. The metal one's been made to order. Well, Forge World made their own version, which is much bigger. And it's so much more dynamic and interesting. We had the old Fire Dragon. This was a short-lived one. This is more your traditional kind of high elf dragon as well. A lovely kit. The Dread Saurian. This thing's huge, absolutely massive as well, and probably one of the reasons it didn't do too well, because, you know, fantasy games didn't really have the space for it. But you can kind of see how absolutely massive it was. Which, let's face it, you know, lizard men armies with an absolutely massive T-Rex style centerpiece is what you want. There was the Rogue Idol of Gork, or possibly of Mork. This one was very interesting because when it was originally released, they made a note of pointing out that it's literally held together with orc poo. That's what they do, is they make it out of poo and rocks, which was kind of gross and probably why people didn't want it. But you didn't see these very often. But again, orcs having a golem style, almost like a giant, but a great big construct made out of rocks that's animated by their sheer power of the War. That's kind of cool. The Basilisk, this one I believe has already been announced, possibly. And it's not too badly sized either. I can't remember what this one was called. The Elemental of Beasts. I mean, this is very much like a Leshen from the Witcher series. But this could be a really cool centerpiece for like a Wood Elf army. The Flesh Hounds. And I love a good werewolf. Like, for those of you that know me, werewolves are like the one thing out there that really scares me. And I love them. I think werewolves are fantastic. So they had a whole unit of them, and then a bigger one as well. And they, you know, they're literally werewolves. They're ripping their way out of the skin of the person they were. Lovely models. Again, another one I can't remember. Praeton? Yeah, Praeton. I don't think I've seen this one before. If I have, I don't remember it. This might have been one that was released actually through Games Workshop, though. can't quite remember. The Spiny Beast. Another really big model that just didn't see the love. And I think nowadays people are really into big models, big centerpiece models, and a lot of these could make returns, along with, as we've seen before, a lot of these Forge World model kits with a lot more detail. You've got, command units for your squads. The Chaos Dwarfs as an entire faction. There was some brilliant orcs. I mean, we've seen these guys, the smaller guys, coming back. I just really hope we get to see the bigger ones. And my point I'm trying to get to here is that these didn't do great the first time round, because I think at the time there was obviously the problem with Forge World models being used in Games Workshop stores, and I think we're past that now. I think everyone who's playing is playing at clubs or at home, and I really hope that we can see sort of these big models, these fantastic centerpieces, getting the love they deserve, because they do. They are just amazing sculpt models. The guys and girls who did this, they deserve all the praise they can get, because they really pulled all the stoppers out on them, and they still hold up today. So if you do get the chance, whether it is through Games Workshop or through less legitimate means, you should treat yourself and get some of those bigger models if you can find them in stock. Because if they get rules in the old world, which it looks like they are, they can be fun and they can be highly thematic, and those are two of the most important things about wargaming. Well, thank you for letting me ramble, guys. As always, thank you very much for everyone who has commented on my recent videos. Thank you for all the support I get. If you have any questions, comments, pop them down below. Commenting is free and obviously helps support the channel, as does hitting the like button, the share button, and the subscribe button if you're not subscribed. If you've enjoyed my rambling, thank you very much. I hope you enjoy more of my rambling in the future. And if you'd like to come chat with us, you can always come join us on Discord. If you need a link, just ask in the comments and I will get you a link. Right, thank you very much. Have a great day. Bye-bye.